What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve.
I'm Lindsay.
Today we're going to be right into why rent in London is out of control right now.
I feel like rent is out of control everywhere right now.
Yeah, a bit, especially in places like New York City, San Francisco, and honestly, even around here compared to what it was just a few years ago.
Relative to the area,
right.
I think the prices have dramatically increased.
Right, but I've been really curious about places like London for quite some time now because I've heard that London is one of the most expensive cities to live in.
Period, and then now it's
just like... yes. Now, I know New York City is expensive, but I've heard that London may be more expensive than New York.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Which doesn't surprise me, honestly.
It does me.
Really?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I have no idea how much it costs to live in London, except that it's supposedly very expensive.
We were shocked at how high the rent increase was. My flatmate and I wouldn't be able to afford that increase based on the jobs we have and what we currently earn.
We love this area and we've lived here for the past 6 years. We desperately wanted to stay and we were more than prepared to stay.
London rents increased by 17% during 2022. That's
wow.
the highest year-on-year increase the city has recorded since 2007. Wow. On average, London's renters, who are single earners, spend 48.4% of their income on rent. In 2021,
what?
That figure was just 42.7%.
Okay, first of all, 42.7% is super high, but 48.4%. I wonder what it is now. I mean, I wonder what the percentage.
Yeah, that was for 2022. Wow,
oh,
guys, almost 50% of income on rent.
What is it? What's the statistic that financial advisors
for mortgages?
Yeah, for like what percentage of?
I don't know what it is in the UK, but here they want you to stay. It's like below 33%, but preferably 28% of your income for rent or mortgage. Or mortgage specifically.
Much lower than this.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't even think you can get a mortgage if it's above like 40%.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like when you apply for a home loan, at least here in the US, if you don't make a certain percentage of the price of the home, they're not going to approve the loan.
That is crazy, guys. Wow, that's average. So there's people paying much more than that. Realize that.
My word.
That is insane. I would as much as I'd want to live there, if I had to pay that much
I'd be like,
income,
peace out.
Yeah, we got to get out into the suburbs somewhere because that's insane. Although I will say this, a lot of people probably don't have to have cars in London, so you do offset the cost somewhat, but still, that's huge.
Yeah, that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Many renters are fighting their landlords on proposed rent increases or are being forced to move as they can no longer afford to pay rent for their homes.
Upon closely reading the tenancy agreement with our other tenants in the building, we realised that together we could communicate in a way that would challenge the process of the proposed increase.
There was no way that we could afford to heat or eat on that budget with our rent. Probably being about a good 90% of my pay packet.
Wait,
holy
stop. What did he just say?
Did he say 90% of his income?
Go back because
he said 90% of his pay packet. I'm guessing pay packet means income, I guess.
He has a roommate though. They're splitting the rent. So you're telling me his half? No.
That's insane. How much is rent in London? I hope they say how much rent on average is because that's wild.
Meaning that landlords have the power to charge as much rent as they think is reasonable and
in
a highly competitive market with more demand than supply for rental properties. This has led to sky-high prices that are unaffordable for many. Renters can try to negotiate or say no, but then they run another risk, being evicted.
My name's Daniel Lloyd, I'm 26 years old and our landlord has proposed to increase our rent by 27%.
£1,775
is what the proposed increase is?
$2,100. And I'm guessing now I don't know this for a fact.
A flat is an apartment.
Right, and
it's not even a house.
And I'm guessing that it's probably a one-bedroom. I'm guessing.
No, because isn't he the one with the roommate?
Oh wait, is he? Anyway.
Wait, and they were both.
I don't know.
Ooh.
But a 27% increase in 1 year, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'd be a little mad.
Yeah, that's a little bit much.
Although here, like if you have a rental agreement, like they can't just...
Maybe that's part of the agreement that they can.
Ooh, yeah, that would be...
I don't know.
London is a city of close to 9 million people spread out over around 607 square miles, which is about twice as large as New York City. From skyscrapers in the city centre to family homes in the suburbs.
Oh wow, that's a different side of London that I don't picture.
And an international hub.
Inner London covers the sort of central part of London. It covers an area that's sort of maybe 20 to 30 minutes commute by public transport. It covers all the international areas. When you get out into the suburbs of London, which is far more of a market dominated by houses, maybe sort of 35, 40, 50 minutes commute out of the centre, you know, rents fall. So, you know, moving into outer London, there's better value for money, and so you get people on higher incomes moving there. The other thing I'd also add is London's seen a lot of improvement in public transport, so we've also opened up new markets.
That's cute.
That is really cute.
Strong transport links are one of the advantages Daniel and his flatmate enjoy about their home, which is located in outer London.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, that definitely can help offset the cost of
Moving outside the city center, you mean?
No, like
having a roommate.
Having the public transportation.
Oh. Yeah, that too.
Is what can offset. I talk about that a lot, actually, because like it's something that I've never experienced. I've never lived somewhere for an extended period of time to where we had like good public transportation or really any public transportation.
I feel like the closest we got to experiencing that was when we lived in Bangkok for a short period of time.
Yeah.
We rode the train pretty much everywhere, and that was really convenient. So
I mean,
see the appeal.
As much as I love the freedom of having a car, I've always had a car for as long as I've driven.
I feel like in the U.S., it's pretty much
you pretty much have to, unless you're like, if you're in New York City, I guess maybe you get away with it. But beyond that, you pretty much have to have a car here because anywhere else doesn't really have much public transportation. But I can definitely see the appeal of it to a certain extent of not having that, to have a vehicle. You can have a bike. Of course, if you got kids, it becomes a little bit more urgent to have a car.
Yeah.
London is just the best place to live. There are so many things to do, outdoors and indoors. The transport links are fantastic and enable us to get to all sorts of different places, to see different people, to meet different people.
Daniel and his flatmate also have to live in London for their jobs.
We love the city and the opportunities that it gives. For me, as a reporter, I travel a lot to motor races, therefore I need access to London's airports.
Yeah.
As a writer and comedian, Dave's job also ties him to the city.
I unfortunately don't really have too much choice in where I'm based, so I have to really be in the capital. I love London. It's absolutely incredible. I think it's a beautiful city to live in, and to be honest, I think it gets better as time.
Man, there's so many places I'm seeing here that are like iconic. I don't recognize, I can't name these places, but I've seen them probably in videos and in movies and so forth. Yeah.
Goes on.
When the pandemic happened, lockdowns meant that London was suddenly much less attractive to live in. Restaurants, bars and activities were shut down, and working from home meant people no longer had to live in the city to commute to work.
So that rent was no longer needed.
It was a big hit to demand. People couldn't travel to the UK, offices were closed, the economy effectively shut down. And the supply of rented homes increased as landlords who typically rent properties to tourists and short-term visitors put those homes into the long-let market. And so we saw rents fall by about 10 to 15%.
The market was on the side of renters, but as London and the world reopened, the dynamic on the rental market shifted, with prices soaring. In December 2022, the median asking rent for a two-bedroom flat in London was
Hold up.
No.
$2,900 for a two-bedroom apartment. Average or median.
Yeah.
That is insane. Because think about it. That's not the...
Was that in 2022? Is that what she
I think
said?
so. But that's not the upscale area, like necessarily. That's median.
Holy cow.
That is insane, guys. Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
I'm in shock.
No.
$2,900.
Man.
Wow.
Okay, I as much as I would love... You know, if I loved living in a city, there's no way I would be out. I would go and live on the suburbs somewhere, man, like for those prices. What if you need a 3-bedroom?
Well, I mean, if you need a 3-bedroom, Oh, you mean like if you're a family?
Yes.
That's true. I was thinking,
Yes.
oh, well, you just have a third person to split it with. But yeah, if you're a family.
Yeah, that would be insane. Wow. Okay.
compared to £1,900.
I mean, that's still a lot.
That's still a lot, but yeah, definitely
Started
increased.
2021 with a massive oversupply of properties. In some parts of London, there was a 50-60% increase in properties on the rental market. So prices were still 20% down from kind of 2019 levels. The demand and supply curve had definitely leveled out, which then brought the beginning of 2022, which was completely different, and the demand was high, and then the stock levels have dramatically reduced.
Daniel lives with his friend in a 2-bedroom flat in southwest London and paid a total of £1,400 a month. In October 2022, their landlord proposed to increase their rent by 27% to £1,775.
That's a big jump in a year.
The issue is not just affecting them, but almost everyone living in their building.
We understood that some people in some flats were having their rent increased by £100 per person. That prompted us to knock around and gather people's numbers, get a group chat together on WhatsApp to discuss our rent situations. And it was there that we found out that people were facing increases in excess of 25%, some as much as 30%.
Daniel and some of his neighbours also have a clause
year.
in their leases that limits by how much rent can be increased, and believe the landlord's initial suggestion would breach this. They reached out to their property manager to negotiate the increase and received a new offer of £1,750 a month, only £25 less than the original suggested rent increase. They continued to push back, but have not heard anything new from their property manager.
We have used the time to get legal aid from other organisations that are involved in renters' rights, so we have an idea of what directions they could take, but ultimately we're currently sitting, waiting, nervous to see what they're going to say.
High prices and low supply have led to fierce competition amongst renters, who now often feel they have to go to great lengths when trying to secure a property.
We often don't have to ask tenants to offer over asking price. They just offer over asking price because they've lost out on the last 2 or 3 properties that
Wow.
Wait, she's talking about renters?
Yeah.
Oh
that's what I
my
think so.
goodness.
They have to offer over asking price because I guess the properties disappear
It's so
so
in
quickly.
demand. Could you imagine like looking for an apartment or a rental house and having to offer above what they're asking?
I know,
a
right?
month?
That's insane,
Wow.
man. Never had that experience.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
they've bid for. They're offering long leases. You're realizing that, they probably don't want to be looking again in another year. I mean, they send us in bios, they send us in pictures. Applicants have got pets, send us in like pet CVs.
Many people here in London are feeling overwhelmed with the task of finding a new home. Properties are disappearing from real estate websites within hours, so people need to react to new listings immediately.
That'd be stressful.
Scrolling through online property listings, you might find flats advertised for 2 people, but with bunk beds or rooms so small.
PCM, and that was per month, I believe. Wasn't it? I believe it was.
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right.
What does the C stand for? Per. Oh man, I can't remember what.
Pounds?
No, wait. I can't remember, guys. We just learned this.
Told us.
Yeah, it was told to us in the comments section, and I cannot remember what the PCM exactly stood for.
Doesn't fully open before hitting the bed frame. These flats now seem to cost what generously sized spaces did just a year ago.
So supply and demand are really out of kilter at the moment. On the supply side, the average London estate agent would typically have had 17 to 20 properties for rent on their books. That's down to 10 or less than 10 at the moment. So there's a real scarcity of homes for renters looking to rent. And now the economy is opening up. Tourism has restarted. We've also got mortgage rates increasing in the UK.
The market is driving this, not estate agents and not landlords. And I think that's probably the misconception. Tenants know they've got to spend over the asking price. We're not necessarily asking them to do that. They are coming forward with a really good offer because they know if they don't offer that, then they're going to lose out.
Many of London's renters, including Dave and his partner, have been forced to move. He has been living in the city for around 11 years and lived in his previous flat in South London for 6 of them. Dave and his partner paid £950 a month for the 1-bedroom flat.
Okay, that's more like it. I mean, I wouldn't say that's over the top or anything. Obviously, depending on your area and stuff.
Yeah. but that was...
Yeah, well, before the big hike, supposedly.
But in July 2022, his landlord proposed to increase rent by 26% to £1,200.
That's a big jump in 1 year. Wow.
At how much the rent was going up. And when we said, look, I think it's reasonable that there is going to be inflation. I think it is reasonable that prices do go up. We will negotiate at, say, 15%. Does that sound good to you? And they said, absolutely not. It's 26% increase or nothing.
Man.
I think paying the higher rental price was absolutely never an option. But also the fact that the landlord had so openly showed a disregard not only for our well-being but also our safety and health. There were people using drugs on our doorstep. There were people urinating on our doorstep.
Okay, so it doesn't even sound like he's in like a wonderful area if you got all these problems going outside your door.
Yeah.
And his rent is at that level, even for an area that's obviously not, you know, one of the nicer areas, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if you were
in a decent area.
In a decent area with a landlord who
cared,
did upkeep, and like was concerned about how nice things were.
As well, they'd set up our gas meter wrongly and also, I think, unsafely as well.
That's concerning.
A little bit.
Many of London's renters are still facing an uncertain future as pressures on the rental market are not expected to ease.
Well, I think we've seen the worst of the big increase in rents that we have. But I'm afraid I think rents are going to keep rising at a reasonably rapid rate, maybe in the 4 to 5% bracket, largely because we just don't have enough supply coming through. We really need to see more supply in London. A lot of that's going to come off new build development.
My advice would be to act quickly. You know, it's really important that the references are completed within 24 to 48 hours. It's really important that the contract is signed within 24 to 48 hours. So I would advise renters to think hard about what they'll compromise on, because there will definitely have to be a compromise.
That's a different view of the skyline than I've ever seen before.
Down the river.
Yeah. This is interesting. Like, is this the river or is this some sort of different waterway? Because I did not know that. Because this
went right through.
Because this can't be the river. Look how narrow it is compared to the river. So I don't really know what we're looking at, but this is interesting. Let us know in the comments, guys. What is this waterway?
Or something.
Yeah, I guess it could be.
After saving for over a decade, Dave and his partner were able to purchase a flat together on the edge of inner London. Their monthly mortgage is now lower than their increased rent would have been.
That's
we
good.
were incredibly fortunate in order to be able to buy somewhere, and I know not everyone is that fortunate as we were, but the difference is now, instead of paying rent to pay somebody else's,
now you got a locked-in payment,
paying our own mortgage to hopefully one day, when the year 3000 comes, to actually pay our mortgage.
Dave is also hopeful that there will be long-term savings, as him and his partner can maintain the flat well and make small repairs themselves.
In the long term, actually owning our own flat and being able to nip things in the bud and maintain the place as it should be
gives you control.
Will actually save us more money.
However, buying a property is not an option for the majority of renters in inner London, as the average property price is £638,000.
Wow! So that's average
property price as of 2022.
Daniel and his flatmate are not sure whether they will be able to stay in their current home, so they have been looking at listings for rental flats.
It's difficult, admittedly, to find a 2 double-bedroom flat in London because space is at a premium. However, we have found a few things a bit further out. We would lose a lot of our transport connections that we have to central London.
Paying the higher rent would be impossible for Daniel and his flatmate.
The only other options would be to move back to our parents' houses, but we're 26-year-old professionals. It wouldn't be fair on our parents to do that. So we're determined to remain in our current property, to fight back against the landlord and to state our claim and get a level of increase that is acceptable.
Okay, those are row houses they talk about. That is interesting. You know, I don't know if I've ever seen something quite like that.
Not so altogether like that.
Right, they're
like
just long.
Here, usually you would see like
townhouses.
4, at the most, like 4 or 5 townhouses connected.
Right, and then but they wouldn't be like in one line like that.
Right.
Like these row houses like this. I've heard of these. I've seen kind of glimpses of them, but I've never seen it kind of laid out like this.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Acceptable and not at the high levels that
wow.
they proposing to multiple people in the building.
London rent is very expensive.
Yeah.
Which I expected, but to see what the median is just insane. Wow. Now, I haven't looked at New York City's rent in a long time, or like San Francisco or any of these other areas. Now, I know they're expensive, but this just seems insanely expensive to me.
Yeah.
You know, it makes me realize if you have the ability and the capital to build a residential building in London, go for it. Because
you'd be making money.
Seems like a good place to build some residential apartments or something. But yeah, this was really interesting, guys. You know, I will say, I think it would be really cool in some aspects to live in a city like London. Long term, I would like to be on the outskirts of town, have a bit of land, be able to grow some of my own food and things like that. Privacy.
Grass outside your door.
Be able to have a go-kart for Sophia to ride around in the field, that type of thing.
But everyone's different, you know?
But I'm just saying, like, because I've never really lived that type of city lifestyle, looking from the outside in, I can definitely see some things that are very appealing about it. Even though it's not for me forever, but I think it would be something really fun to do for a period of time.
Yeah.
We've only had little bits and pieces of that, like when we traveled to Southeast Asia.
I was going to say, and that was in other countries, not here in the US.
But we still had that like city kind of vibe to where you're in city, you walk everywhere, you get on a train and stuff like that. Kuala Lumpur and Bangkok are the two specific ones I'm mainly talking about because both of those were massive cities.
Yeah.
And so I can see the appeal, but for the amount of money, it's like you could get somewhere else in the country and, you know, buy probably a piece of land that's, you know, more than just this little apartment.
Which that's my dream, but a lot of people don't have
a lot of people don't want that. And
they don't want the responsibility. And so this is perfect, aside from the cost.
Yeah. You know, that's something I'm curious about too. So if you buy a flat, like I think the man that was just speaking, him and his partner, I believe, they bought a flat instead of an actual house, right?
Yeah. Which I think the equivalent here would be like a condo
or a townhouse. Right. But I'm wondering, do they have something like the HOA fees or what we call here the homeowner association fees for the building itself, the maintenance?
Have that for.
I think with an apartment or a flat, you probably would. That's something I definitely want to avoid.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that.
Like, because that's something like no matter what you do, when you pay off your property, you will always have this, and they can dictate how you can paint and everything. It's like, oh no, thank you. But this was interesting to say the least, guys. You know, I'm really curious how London rents compare to other cities around the UK.
I was going to say this isn't indicative of the UK as a whole, obviously. But yeah, it would be interesting to compare.
I love this type of thing, guys. Let us know in the comments what we should check out next in terms of, you know, anything like this, whether we should check out another city with their rent and their housing prices or something completely different from this. But anyways, guys, enough rambling from us. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything about the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys. Peace.
Bye.